Hello, my name is Jim Zeroyans, and I'm an instructor for Mendocino College. I teach in the area of agriculture and natural resources, and one of the courses I've taught for many years is pruning. I've been requested by Scott Craigie and the Mendocino County Fire Safe Council to give a short presentation on pruning cuts and brush treatments for roadside fire prevention. So the first thing we want to talk about real quick is just so we all are on the same platform of terminology, some of the basic parts of the tree or a shrub. And that is, one, we'll start from the top here, branch crotch. And that's this area between the branch coming in and the larger branch or the trunk. This main branch or trunk where this angle right here is called a branch crotch. That's really important because at the branch crotch, we will find this swollen area. It's most of the time it's swollen, sometimes it's not. And that's called the branch collar. Branch collar, I put a big red star here because that is really important to recognize. And we don't ever want to cut into that because we'll lose our ability for this plant to heal itself at the cut. But a couple other type of trees that you can see where the branch crotch to start being able to recognize it. This is true on shrubs too. Some have a little swollen area right here. This one actually has like a ridge in there. So this is pretty easy to identify on this one. You would want to cut out here if you're going to prune this branch. How far out do you cut? Well, a rough idea is about a pencil width thickness in there. You don't want to go less than that because it will dry back a little bit and may end up causing damage to this collar. That collar is really important because that's the tissue in there that will grow and divide and cover up and heal that wound. Every pruning cut we'll talk about, we're calling them wounds because that's what they are. And that scab that will cover it comes from this tissue right in that branch collar. So here's another one. You can see kind of a bunch of folds, a ripple effect right here. And this identifies as branch collar. So you come out here, right here is where the branch collar ends. So you can come out here and make this cut. Stubs and tears, these are no. We don't want these. And yes, I got the sad face there. You can see here where this is cut, it tore back. And when it tears back into this cameo layer. Also, we have separation here showing that this is already drying and dying back. This area would never heal right in here. This is prone or now open to rots and insects. And of course, around here, we have our acorn woodpeckers, which will like to pound in there. The other thing that may happen, you may get a whole bunch of these cluster shoots there. We got a whole bunch of this sad faces here. And that is because this is as sad as you can get. This is along the roadside. It was pruned to get it out of the way and to lift it up because they didn't want anybody driving by there and hitting it. If this was for fire protection, well, this is making it worse. We got a lot of dead stuff. These giant stubs are not going to sprout. They're just dying back. A lot of dead material. The best thing to do is give this a one-cut prune method right there and just to get it out of there. And topping is one of those things that's done. This is more on top of a tree where you're heading them off, each of these branches off, making these heading cuts called topping in this case, because it's the very top of the tree. This will either cause rot and cause it to die back, or it will give you a whole cluster of weakly attached shoots from the top. And those weakly attached branches will then break off, often in a storm, drop it on the wire, drop it on the roadway. These are stubs that were left here. This little roadside pruning job by some crews left 11 stubs in this one little photo. 11 stubs that will probably either die back, most of them will die back, or they'll have clusters of sprouts, like right around on this one here. This is not only ugly, and if you're walking by or working there, it's going to tear your jacket or clothes, but it does not look good. And they will, if they die, it's more twiggy stuff that can more easily catch fire. And if they have a bunch of small branches, they will easily break from that. Here's an example of a branch that was stubbed out at 8 inches or 10 inches. And then we have a lot of green shoots coming from there. Those green shoots coming from there will be weakly attached and will be right down this area where we wanted them out anyway. So if they had come down here and done a proper cut at the proper location, this would not have happened. And on a plant like this, oak, the way this branch comes out here, this should have been cut down at the red line. The yellow line is showing the proper angle on here. This gives you a much longer cut, and much longer cut means much more surface area, much less likely of it actually healing. Another example, this is the homeowner prune job. They cut here and it tore down, tearing bark, damages this area here called the cambium and down into, and we have a tear here as well. Both of these will not heal properly. They'll have rot in there eventually, and probably this whole branch will end up falling out. Could have been rectified if these were cut properly. Same with this one. This was cut here and it broke out up there. This needs to be, this one can be corrected by just finishing that cut off. This is a common what we see, this type of tear on small branches, in which if you're lifting trees up, that is pruning from the bottom up or shrubs up, you're going to be doing this. This is what you want to avoid. This is a tear back in there. They become a source of rot. Why is this sad face? Because this is a stub out here. And we can see this is in the middle of the branch, so he's going to create a stub. And what you should do as a rule of thumb, if you can't hold that branch up with your left hand while you're cutting with your right hand, you need to come in here and do what's called a 3-cut method. Otherwise, you're going to get this big tear. This is a 3-cut method. You're using 3 cuts. The first cut is the undercut. The collar is back there. We're outside that collar, and we're coming in just a little bit. You're not going to be able to cut all the way through. In fact, if you cut too far into this with this saw, the weight of this branch will pinch that saw. So you only want to go into it a little bit. Your goal here is to cut that bark. When you cut that bark right here, now you're going to cut down here, and hopefully when it breaks out or tears back, it'll tear just to that cut. As you finish cut number 2 with the yellow, it does break, comes back to that first cut and stops there. Now you have this you won't need to cut out. So this is where cut number 3 comes in. It's near the branch collar, but outside the branch collar, and cutting that, and leaves you with a nice cut and a smiley face. Okay, so some of the roadside trees and shrubs that we're going to look at here, common around here. There are many that we don't have time to cover, but these will give you some of the common ones. Manzanita, toyon, and county bush, they're all 3 native, and they offer a lot of benefits to us around here. And then French broom, which is a non-native weed and should be removed. Some of the trees we'll look at, a lot of these will resprout, and most of our oaks will resprout, madrones, and bay trees. So these are things we need to think about. If we're cutting and leaving stumps there, they will resprout from them. Trees of concern, like conifers, because they're more flammable, such as Doug fir, we need to make sure those are lifted up if they are going to be left at that site. And eucalyptus, extremely flammable, a lot of oils in there. Some of the brush treatments, we want to reduce the total number of plants that we see there in the roadside, or even around a building. We want to remove all the dead and dying branches, because those are what are going to catch fire and burn, be the most flammable. We also want to remove the lower branches by lifting the plant up. That's what we call lifting up, when we prune from the lower stuff off and just leaving the upper stuff. We want to thin the number of stems in the plant, and I'll show you a picture of that. And then also renewing plants, such as coyote bush. We can cut it all the way down and renew the plant and get a good plant. Can't do that with our manzanitas, not the ones we have around here. It will kill them. This is our common manzanita. And you can see all the dead twiggy stuff in there, very flammable, will catch fire greatly or easily. And there's a lot of plants. So what we would want to do here is to remove or reduce the number here by removing this one. And then we want to remove all the dead stuff out. And then we can do that by eliminating some of these branches that are crisscrossing and then lifting them up a bit. These are actually pretty thick on the trunks here, and could be a pretty good plant for the environment there. This is another look at the manzanita close-up if you need a review on that. This is an area that's been weed-eated around, and this manzanita right here has been lifted up and the dead material taken out. A nice example. The flammability of this is greatly reduced. Other ones, same thing has been done around here. They've been weeded around, and you can see the cuts from before where they've cut across it. This landowner has done quite a bit on his own there. Here's another spot, manzanitas, where they've been lifted up and thinned out. A lot of these branches inside here have been thinned out. Yes, there's a stub there, but outside of that, things have been done pretty well there. These two have been very recently done. They've been lifted up. You can see the pruning cuts up in here, leaving that manzanita up here, but they've also reduced the number. They've taken that one out and that one out because there's too many and too much, too close, and they kept the healthiest one here. This one's kind of intertwined with it and a little bit younger, and probably a good choice to keep both of them. This is another big example of a big manzanita, but this is on a steep hillside, and fires will run up the hill very quickly. They've done some removal of all the brush around here and some of the lower branches, but they still need to really remove this one right here and maybe even part of here if they're going to keep this plant, because as a fire comes up, there's dead stuff right here. This is on the bottom. Let's try to reduce some of that. This is a manzanita that's been taken care of for a number of years. It has a big, smooth trunk, very attractive. The canopy is off to the left outside the picture. It looks nice. And guess what? The fire hazard is greatly reduced because this is not going to catch with a light fire. County brush is very common around here. It does build up a lot of dead twiggy stuff in there. And if it starts dying back or getting too big, just cut it down to the bottom. It is a good plant. It's one of the few things that blooms this time of year. In October to February, this is what it looks like when it's blooming, both the male and the female plants. And this is one you need to know. French broom, common on our roadsides. Unfortunately, it's a non-native, bad smiley face because it builds up all that twiggy, woody stuff in there. Very heavy, very thick growth. And this is extremely flammable, both because it builds up a lot of dead, small, twiggy stuff in there, and it has some chemical properties that make it a little flammable. It can be recognized in the springtime because it has yellow pea-like flowers. This time of year, it has these kind of pea pods that are fuzzy French broom. Also, it has fuzzy leaves, fuzzy French broom. The stems have ridges on there. That's why this has this kind of rigid thing here, or angles on there. So fuzzy French broom, take it out. These are valley oaks, and what has been done here is they've been lifted up. They've been left in place to kind of look like gangly teenagers right now, but they'll outgrow that in a few years. This has greatly reduced the fire hazard here. This is what happens if you take a live oak down the ground. It will resprout. This is buckeye. Buckeye is intermittently common around here on the hillsides. Not a fire hazard at all. I wouldn't even worry about spending any time on it. Okay, this is in a front yard. This is a Douglas fir, and right on the roadside, county road edge. This really needs to be limbed up if this plant was going to be kept, because this is a fire hazard, very flammable plant if a fire were to come through. Nice plant, native plant, but still is very, in this case, the way it's located here is a fuel ladder to climb up to the oaks. And that's it. Thanks for your attention, and happy pruning, and be safe.